Have you ever tried to look so calm while your heart feels like it's about to beat out of your chest, especially when it involves your children? Because you want them to grow, you want them to take risks, you want them to build that confidence and independence. But at the same time, every part of you is thinking, what if something goes wrong? And if they could feel how nervous you actually are, they might not do it at all. So you smile, you nod, you act like everything is fine, even when it's not. That was exactly how it felt when I was sitting there last week at the dive meet, watching these girls climb higher and higher while every mom standing there was doing the exact same thing, holding it together on the outside while everything on the inside was just racing. And we were wondering, why do we do this to ourselves? Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Struggle and Strength Moms Balancing It All with Nikki. Today, we're going to dive into something deep about that feeling where our heart is beating out of our chest and we're just praying that everything goes right in that moment. And it doesn't just happen to moms at a certain age of children, it happens to the best of us. If you saw the Olympics, I can't remember who it was. I think it was it was this past figure skating Olympics, and they put the like heartbeat monitors on the parents of the Olympians that were going out there and performing, and you could see, like, that they posted, like, their blood pressure on the TV while they were watching, and it was like their hearts were just racing, and we're so nervous for our children at that m in the during those moments, like, when they're supposed to shine, when they're supposed to be independent and take the risks and do it all. And it just hurts so bad because you wanna be supportive and you wanna act like you're calm, cool, and collective, but at the same time, you're struggling to keep it together. And that's how it was this past week when I went to my daughter's dive meet. I was surrounded by parents who their girls were older. They were 16, 17 years old. They already had full ride scholarships to Duke and Notre Dame and Dartmouth and wherever they were going. But they were still so nervous as those girls were climbing up to the 10-meter platform. And of course, my daughter's only 10, 11. She's going up to the 5-meter platform, but it's just like your stomach drops just watching them climb, and then you see them up there. The one mom sitting next to me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, she's so nervous." Like, I can tell because she's pacing around up there. She got up there early, up on the platform, and she's like, "I gotta keep it together." And she's like, "But I'm so nervous." She goes, "My hands are so sweaty, I can't even video record her." And they were like, "Why are we doing this to ourselves?" It's like we get so much more nervous than our children do. And we're watching, we're waiting, we're holding our breath, and that's when it started. Like, I started realizing that I wasn't really the only one, that it doesn't just happen when your kids are young and they're jumping off the couch trying to show you some cool trick, or they're trying to do backflips on the soccer field. Oh my gosh, when I was coaching the boys soccer, they would try and do backflips, and I'm like, "Please, please, please don't break yourself on my watch," you know? And then it's like, your kids get up there and they go to perform at their sport. They only get one shot. These these divers, they have one competition. This past weekend was the USA champion, not regional champions, and they only had one shot. It's like golf, when Tiger Woods gets up there and he swings the golf club, like, you only get one shot, and if it doesn't work, then you don't qualify. You don't get the championship. And so we're just holding our breath, like waiting and praying that everything goes right. And in that moment, it's just, I don't know, like, what happens to us? Why do we get that way? Why do we get so nervous? And when the moms were saying that, they were all laughing at each other because they knew that each and every one of them felt it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one." And although it really wasn't funny because we're all feeling this struggle, but we can't do anything about it. It's like you try so hard. You try and focus on other things, you try and distract yourself, but that whole time we're sitting there so nervous for our children. And why do we sign up to feel this way? Why do we put ourselves in situations where our heart is literally in somebody else's body? Because that's what it feels like. Your heart pumping so hard, right? Your child is standing on that platform. Your body is reacting like you're the one about to jump. It feels like you're up there, right there with them. And then that's where it hit me. Not one of those moms walked away and said, "This is too much. We can't move on." They stood there, they smiled, they clapped, they held it together, even when everything inside of them was screaming. That right there is a different kind of strength. Not loud strength, not visible strength, but the kind of strength where you carry the fear so your child doesn't have to. And let's be honest, the struggle isn't watching them do something hard. The struggle is feeling everything and still choosing to be the calm one, feeling the fear and still showing the confidence for them to move forward, wanting to protect them, but knowing that you have to let them go. And that's the part that no one talks about. I get so nervous every time that I think about my kids going off to college, and it's almost like a double standard. I don't know why. My kids are 8, 9, and 10, well, now 11, and they have never, ever had one sleepover. I had sleepovers when I was, like, 5 and 6 years old. I did things that they will never do, and it's not because I'm not allowing them to, they don't want to. That my daughter, she had the chance to go with Girl Scouts and sleep over by herself, and she was like, "If you're not going, I'm not going." And I like that, let me be honest, because I don't have to worry. I feel like today's world is so different than it was 40 years ago when I was growing up, that I don't have the same trust that my parents had when I was growing up. You know, we would go out on the in the neighborhood, and we would play with our friends. We would walk up to the local Walgreens and the pharmacy and all the parks. I when I lived in Chicago, I would walk to the beach, and let me tell you, I almost drowned in the beach. And not in the beach, in the lake, okay? Lake Michigan, because I went out there with friends, and the waves were very powerful, and out there, it's swim at your own risk. There is no lifeguard on board, and let me tell you, if my parents knew what happened, they probably would never, ever have let me go again, because we went out there, and the waves were super strong. And I went under, and the current kept taking me, and I could not get up. I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't get a grasp of air. I was drowning. And thankfully, I was right next to the rope that sections off the different parts of the lake, and I grabbed on for dear life. Well, obviously, I lived because I'm here, you know, 30 years later, but I shouldn't have been. And the fear of something like that happening to my children, I can't even tell you what that feels like, because I know the crazy like, not so smart things that I did growing up, and somebody, something, someone up above has been watching over me, and I don't know. I hope that that same angel is watching over my children, But I did some pretty not smart things, some pretty risky things as a kid that my parents have no idea that I did. But it was a different age growing up. We didn't have cell phones. We had the long cord phone in the house, and no one knew where I was. My mom would be like, "Come home when it gets dark." And I could hear her screaming, "Nikki!" all throughout the neighborhood looking for me. But let me tell you, they had no idea where I was. No idea what I was doing. They just waited for me to come home every day. But now that's different. Like our kids, some areas, they don't even play outside. They don't go out in the neighborhood. They don't play in the neighborhood. They have cell phones, they have watches, they have trackers. What shifted? What changed? We became an like an era of not being able to trust. And I don't like that. That makes me feel sad. It makes me feel sad for our kids, for their generation, for the country. I don't feel safe letting my kids go to other places because like alone. Back then, we knew everybody. You knew everyone in town. You knew their families, you knew their brothers, their sisters, everything about them. Now you go to school with all these kids, you have no idea where they live, who their parents are, do they have siblings, are they good role models, what do they allow at their house? There's so many different factors that go into being a mom now that I mean, I'm sure it was the exact same back then, but people didn't have to worry about the internet and things that are going on there, people stalking them on the internet or knowing their locations. We didn't have that kind of stuff back then. And I feel like now there's just so much knowledge, there's so much data, there's so much risk, and I don't put my children on the internet. One thing that has always stuck with me, and this is really dating myself, is John Bonet Ramsey. She was a little girl that got kidnapped and murdered or whatever when she was really young, and she was like this, pageant girl, I think. She was very well known, and from that, I just never wanted my kids to be well known. I didn't want anybody to know I had kids. I just don't wanna advertise that on the internet. I just don't want it out there so that they can even be involved. If somebody is upset with me, I don't want them to go after my kids. Um, and I feel like that also plays there was a big incident that happened as a child as well. It's like my childhood traumas are making it so that I don't really trust the world with my kids now, and we had an incident at our elementary school. It was very traumatizing. We had a shooter at my elementary school, and one little boy died. It was back in the 80s, and this woman, had a mental illness, and she was working for this family, and they told her they were moving and they didn't need her anymore, and she went crazy on them, and she went out looking for their kids, and while she was looking for their kids, she went into the elementary schools, and she started shooting other kids. And so it's just you just don't know anymore, these kids get bullied, and then they go to schools, and I get nervous every day sending my children to school from what happened to me in elementary school. Now, I wasn't there, thankfully, my brothers were, but they were not affected by it, but our community was shaken. That was probably the worst thing that had happened, and then we had, like, the scares of, like, Homie the Clown on Halloween. I Those are the things that I remember, but, now it's like I can't even imagine the different things that go on. You see all these children missing, and things happening in the world that are just terrifying to where it's like every moment I'm terrified to send them out into the world, which is so bad. It's so, so bad. Like, I shouldn't have this fear. I should be excited for them to go out and explore things and take risks and be able to do things on their own. And I encourage that, although I do have a tight string on my children. And I'm so nervous when they go off to college. Like, I don't know what I will do. I know when I went to college, I called my mom every Sunday. That was our thing. But I think I had a cell phone my sophomore year, not my freshman year. And so I really didn't have any other way. She didn't know where I was, what I was doing. Hopefully, I was alive every day, going to my classes and doing well in school. But now it's like we're tracking them. I know a lot of people have that. It's like Life 360 or something where they track their families. They know exactly where they're at. Like, why do we have this need to track our kids or track our family? Like, there's this like find my iPhone. I don't even know how to use it. I can't get it to work. I don't know. And it's just this fear I feel that we're all having. And I don't know if my parents, I should ask, but I don't know if my parents ever had that feeling like when I went out there and I played sports, were they nervous like every time that I went out there? Because I can tell you, it's like if my daughter plays soccer or my kids play, I mean, if they play soccer or tennis or, my daughter dives, it's like every time that they go out and it's their turn to perform, I am just like, my heart starts pounding and I'm like, come on, you got this. It's because we know how talented and just great that they are, and we want the world to see that, and it's like, if they don't perform to their highest, I feel like we feel that that's a reflection of our parenting, and so we're just like, "Oh, well, if they do bad, then that looks bad on us," and it's more of like a parent pride, but and it really shouldn't be. As much as I try not to act like that, I can't help it. Like, my heart races, my stomach's in knots, I'm trying to hold it together. And I want you to hear this, that you are not crazy. Like, up until this moment last week, I literally thought I was the only one. I thought I was like, something was wrong with me, that I was crazy for feeling this way. And it was actually enlightening to see the Olympics when they were putting those heart monitors on the parents because I thought, really? Like, that's interesting. But maybe they were trying to display this whole thing that I'm talking about today is that we're terrified for our children in the moment, and we have to have the strength to pull it together and, like, be there for them and show them the confidence because your child is watching you the same way that you're watching them. They're reading your face, they're reading your energy, your reactions. It's just like a dog who can sense fear, right? The children can sense our emotions. And sometimes your calm becomes their courage. Like, if you tell them you can do this, they just need that belief. They need you there believing in them. And that's it. And then the moment happens, they do the best that they can do, and you're so proud of them. And maybe it's not their best score, but they did it. And that's one step closer to them doing things and following through because if you don't take action, you don't take risks, you'll never grow or develop in life. You have to take risks. You have to take action. And you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're a mom. And this is what we do. We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, and especially our children because they're not ready to carry that yet. So next time you're in that moment when everything you feel is out of control, but you're standing there, you're smiling, you're keeping it together, you're not crying, you're not biting your nails, you're there, giving them the courage, that calm that they can see. That's not fake. That is your strength. So if this hits you, I would love to hear it. Connect with me. on Facebook or Instagram. Connect with Nikki on Facebook. I think it's Nikki Wallace 247 on Instagram. DM me, let me know your struggles, like your fears that you're having, that racing heart feeling where you're just like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Why am I so nervous? Why are my hands so sweaty? The mom next to me couldn't even video record her children with her own phone. She had to have somebody else do it because her hands were so sweaty she couldn't even hold the phone. But I felt it. I knew exactly the way that she felt because we're all out there doing this together. Even it feel when it feels like we're just the only one. And if you have the feeling like you're holding everything together for everyone else, but you don't have space for yourself, I hear you. You don't have to do this all alone. Reach out. I'd love to hear from you.